Well, greetings, my dear creatures, and welcome to my very first little test stream here today. We shall be trying to take a quick look at Microsoft's Dangerous Creatures, which was a very fun program that I found. There are a few others. There's one about dinosaurs also, which I did wish to take a look at some point. However, the main problem is that it's from, I believe, 1991, so I was assuming that there would be a lot of shrink-wrapped dinosaurs in it, and so I didn't actually do it thus far. So yeah, we're going to be taking a look at Microsoft's Dangerous Creatures. I installed this on, if you were wondering how I am running this, I installed this on DOSBox X, which is a DOSBox fork, I believe, and I installed Windows 3.1 on here. One very fun part is that you can actually get wallpapers here. So if you click on the options, you actually have a rather large picture gallery here, and you can find lots of wallpapers to put. Let's see if there's anything. Wow. How about an adult tiger? There you go. And I can make this my wallpaper. And now, if we... Oh, sorry, I have to close this first. And if we now minimize our window, here we go. Now we have the tiger as a wallpaper. I think more programs should allow you to set random things from themselves as wallpapers. I think it also had screensavers, yeah. Dangerous feet. Well, that one sounds good. To use a screensaver, a picture file must be copied over to your hard drive. It will take 401,516 bytes. Sure. I believe I have enough space for that. All right. I don't think I can try the screensaver just yet, though, because... All right, I'm Wolverine. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go to Wolverine. So there's a bunch of different things here. So there's guides. Essentially, there's like different people that will guide you through various aspects. So if you have the Amazon, they all look the same. They just have different hats on. I'm not sure if I'm going to be doing that just yet. I'm just going to be clicking through and seeing some random stuff that there is. And there is a lot of stuff. I was surprised by how much stuff there is. I was actually really surprised. Just have a regular index. Okay, so this is just alphabetically sorted. Baboon, barracuda, beautiful babies, right? Is there anything about birds? I do hope that there are things about birds. There's also Microsoft Encarta, which is basically like an old, very cool encyclopedia program that I also want to take a look at some point. The information there will also be outdated, of course, but it'll still be cool. I wish there were programs like this nowadays. Anyway, I'm just going to... Wow. Click on weapons because I like the image. And you get some very, very exciting music. And now let's click at Jaws. Let's look at some Jaws, yeah? Now the music is okay. Well, a Komodo dragon, sure. Imagine a lizard the size of an alligator. Its teeth are razor sharp, and its claws can shred flesh like you'd rip paper. It can stand on its hind legs, climb, swim, burrow, and it runs as fast as you can. However, this giant monitor lizard from Indonesia doesn't hunt humans. It'll eat just about any other animal, though. Right, and they actually have little movies here as well that you can look at, which are quite interesting. So let's look at the Ruling Reptiles movie. There you go. There he is.
Millions of years ago, the most powerful animals on Earth were
They really are huge, though.
but giant meat-eating reptiles.
The quality is fantastic.
Komodo dragons, the largest lizards around today, are living reminders of this ancient past.
Well, that was good. They are much larger than I thought. I knew about them, but I didn't actually know just how huge they actually were. I thought they were much smaller than this. Right, ruling reptiles. Komodo dragons live only on one small group of islands in Indonesia. The dragons are the largest predators and the largest scavengers on these islands. They are living reminders of a time when giant reptiles ruled the earth. Interesting about this also is that you're actually able to click on random words. So this was, I'm assuming, mostly intended for, younger audiences. So if you click on predator. Yeah, I do know what a predator is, but it's very interesting because it does give you some information around, what is a predator. I'm just going to really quickly check how the stream is going, because again, I haven't been, this is the first time I'm actually done any streaming, so it seems to be going well, however. So that's good. Right, can we go back? Let's go to, well, alligators.
Komodo dragons are the biggest predators on the Indonesian islands where they live. In the swamps of Florida in the US, alligators are the largest predators.
Well, let's actually try to do like one of the guides. And dumb things people do sounds rather intriguing.
Did you know that when people get hurt by wild animals, it's usually because they're doing something really dumb? Click my button over there to the right, and I'll show you what I mean.
All right. Oh, that's going to be interesting. Are we going to get eaten by an animal now?
Oh, what a sweet little thing. I'll just give it these marshmallows, Herman, while you take a picture. Famous last words. While the tourists are sidling up to the bear cub, Mom is probably browsing just on the other side of that big tree. All it takes is one little squeak from Baby.
Cute, but not cuddly. Don't ever approach a baby bear in the wild. Although it might seem defenseless, it can still yelp for Mum, who is somewhere nearby. The Cub Club. Although an adult grizzly is as big as a bison, a newborn cub can fit into a shoebox. Grizzlies are born with their eyes shut, without fur, and weighing only 350 to 680 grams. Over the next 10 years or so, they've got a lot of growing up to do. Well, those are adorable.
Whoa, yeah, and Mom's a whole lot bigger than most people count on.
Yep, she is.
Not to mention, faster and meaner. After all, just what is that stranger doing with her cub? Keep the marshmallows in the car, and you'll stand a better chance of keeping all your body parts in one place.
Keep the marshmallows in the car. Unpredictable. It's hard to know what a grizzly might do if you meet with one. But if the grizzly stands up like this, it's either challenging you because you're too close, or trying to figure out if you'd make a good meal. In either case, start backing away slowly. Some people have found that shouting or waving their arms can also make a big bear back down. Well, I'm quite lucky that I've never actually had to meet a bear in real life. The only thing that I've had come close to that would absolutely have been dangerous is a boar. There's quite a few of them actually here, and you do especially hear them. I do not want to meet up with the boar though. The boars are also quite dangerous, especially as in here. If you have a boar and there's like a mum with her children, absolutely you have to be careful with the boars.
Cameras get a lot of amateur photographers in trouble. The scenario usually goes something like this. Just a little closer, Noreen. Just a little closer. 5 more steps and the shot will be perfect. Sure. A buffalo might let you come 5 steps closer, but who knows? 2 more steps might be the limit before it stomps you into a throw rug.
Yeah, I would absolutely not get close to this thing. I mean, just look at those horns. I'm interested about this bird here. I do know that there are these birds that kind of, especially with oxen, I believe. So this might be an oxpecker or something of the sort, because I know that there are birds that actually are kind of, they live together essentially with oxen. And I'm assuming this might be similar here. So kind of a symbiotic relationship with an ox. And obviously this is a buffalo, so not an ox, but I'm assuming this might be similar here. Right. When 2 sharp horns, backed by 682 kilograms of angry buffalo, approach you at 56 kilometers per hour, you'd better climb the nearest tree, and fast. The Cape buffalo is thought by many to be the most dangerous animal in Africa. It's not the biggest or fastest, but it may be the most aggressive. A buffalo that charges is not likely to stop attacking until its target is dead. Oh boy, that's good to know. What's facts? Oh, alright. So the facts show you where they live, and they are large, up to 3.4 meters, up to 11 feet apparently, and they live in southern Africa, mostly it appears. Defends by goring with horns and by trampling opponent. Eats grasses, leaves, and twigs. Okay. And the horns of the Cape Buffalo are so thick and tough that bullets will bounce off them. Yeah, see, I knew immediately when I saw those horns earlier. You better stay far away from them. And we can get some free advice from her.
These aren't tame cattle. Cape buffaloes have killed people. When you're on safari, stay in the vehicle.
Well, yeah, that makes sense. Right, say water buffalo.
Asian buffaloes love the water. That's why they're called water buffaloes.
Water buffalo. Asian buffaloes are also called water buffalo because they love to bathe in water. Wild water buffalo are rare and endangered, but Asian farmers have long used tame buffalo to pull plows and wagons. The farmer geld buffalo bulls to make them less aggressive. A gelded bull is called an ox. All right. That is good to know. Bird lovers.
Some very different animals can live together quite well.
Ah. See, it was an oxpecker. I knew it was an oxpecker. Bird lovers. Cape buffalo often have several birds walking around on their backs and heads. These birds, called oxpeckers or tick birds, are not just hitching a free ride on the buffalo. They are a type of African starling that eats ticks and flies. This bird-buffalo relationship is a good one. The birds know they can find insects to eat on the skin of the buffalo, and the buffalo are rid of annoying pests. Yeah, this is really cute. I wish to be as big as a buffalo so that I can have my own little ecosystem on me and just have birds flying around me and taking things off of my skin. I think that would be kind of fun. All right, African herds. So we have a bit of a movie here again.
An African buffalo pays no attention to an oxpecker cleaning its face. But if a human approaches, the buffalo may decide to charge. It's best to keep your distance from a herd.
Still kind of impressive. Of course, the quality is not the best, but quite impressive how much audio and how much, actually just content they managed to fit on here. African herds. Herds of wild buffalo once roamed over much of Africa, some even living in forests. Although the two types of wild buffalo look a little different, they both have two things in common: sharp horns and aggressive behavior. Well, that they do. I like this picture at the top. I can't quite tell what it is, but it looks like a crocodile with a hat. I can't quite tell, but that's what it looks like to me anyway. Of hooves and hands.
The front legs and hooves of the Cape buffalo are very strong. They have to be, to carry all that weight.
Of hooves and hands. Imagine how strong your hands would need to be if you had to use them to walk. In cattle, the bones that are like those of our third and fourth fingers, the only two that they have, are fused together, and each finger is tipped with a hoof. All cattle, whether they are tame cows or oxen or wild Cape buffaloes, are classified as artiodactyls, which means hoofed mammals with even number of toes. And once again, you have the definition of mammal.
Mammals.
Animals that are warm-blooded, have hair or fur, and nurse their young. Humans are mammals, as are lions, elephants, mice, cats and dogs, and whales and dolphins. Yes, whales and dolphins do have very fine hair if you look at them closely. And I did not know that they actually have, like, hair. I thought their skin, their hide, was completely smooth. So that's interesting to know that they actually did have hair. And there's actually prehistoric predators. I don't want to click on that because I feel like it'll just take me somewhere else. Yeah, it'll just leave the tour, so I'm not doing that just yet. Horns aplenty.
Sharp horns and hooves scare predators away from the Cape buffalo.
Wrestling contest. Cape buffalo bulls butt heads in a contest to see who is the strongest. The heavier bull wins the right to mate with the cows. Horns aplenty. No predator would dare to take on a group of Cape buffaloes. These herbivores are strong and well armed with sharp horns and hooves. So lions and hyenas pick off old, solitary males that have been cast out, or newly born calves that have wandered away from the herd. Right? Those horns look absolutely terrifying. They look absolutely terrifying. All right, and North American
Hunted
buffalo.
For food and for sport, these animals barely escaped extinction.
And their horns are a little bit more, a little bit smaller than those of the other ones. North American buffalo. When the first Europeans arrived in North America, vast herds of bison, also called buffalo, covered the plains. Riflemen shot so many bison for sport that the animal was nearly driven to extinction. By the late 1800s, there were fewer than 1,000 of these large herbivores alive. Today, thanks to the preservation efforts of a few ranchers and conservationists, there are more than 50,000. Well, let's see what they have to say about bison, herbivores, and preservation then.
Bison.
Well, just an American buffalo.
Herbivore.
An animal that eats mainly plants. Deer, giraffes, cattle, horses, sheep, goats, elephant, and rhinoceroses are examples of herbivores, or plant eaters. Carnivores are meat eaters. Omnivores eat everything. And preservation. Protecting something or keeping it safe or alive. Many people favour the preservation of places for wild animals to live freely. That sounds good. Alright. And the last, who is the meanest?
Bulls fight to protect their territory. That's part of nature. But people make bulls fight for entertainment.
A bull that charges is not attacking because it's mean. It's challenging you over territory in females, just as if you were another bull. That's the natural order of things in the animal world. People, on the other hand, have captured, gelded, and trained bulls as work animals and goaded them into fighting for entertainment, as in this bullfight. Who is bullying whom? Good question. I'm not a fan of the bullfights, to be quite honest.
Geld.
Alright, to remove a male animal's testicles, animals are gelded to make them more gentle. I did not know that was what the term gelding meant. Alright, let us continue our tour. Oh wow, a lizard!
This may be called a monster, but that's because of its looks, not because of its personality. You have to work really hard to get a Gila monster riled up. They'd much rather hide than fight. Most people that have gotten into trouble were doing things like betting they could put their fingers into the lizard's mouth without getting bitten, or carrying a Gila monster inside their jackets. I don't have to tell you that this is really dumb, do I?
She pronounced it Gila monster. My instinct would have obviously been to call it a Gila monster. No, I'm actually interested in, so I'm just going to go to Gila monster. I did not know it was pronounced with an H. Is it actually pronounced with an H? It is. Gila. Gila monster. Interesting that it's pronounced with an H. I did not know that. So, Gila monster. So, I really like the colouring theme of this Gila monster. The orange and the black is very pretty. I really like warm colours, as you can see on my feathers, of course, also. And so this is a really nice colour theme. And I've been playing this game called Gecko Gods, where I'm playing as a gecko. And you can unlock various skins for your gecko as you're playing. And the skin that I'm using actually looks quite similar to this one, so that's interesting. Gila monster. Imagine a venomous bulldog, coloured like a beadwork purse and shrunk only to a few inches tall. That'll give you an idea of what a Gila monster's like. When threatened, these lizards clamp onto their target with sharp teeth and chew venom into the wound. Despite that fact, Gila monsters are becoming hard to find in the wild because too many have been captured and kept as pets. All right, that's interesting. Let's see what it has to say about venom.
Venom.
Poison produced by an animal. Well, that is about correct. The German does not actually have two different words for venom and poison. So venom and poison in German would be the same. Sorry, poisonous animal in German. A venomous animal in German is also a poisonous animal in German. All right, let's look at facts. Kills by biting and chewing venom into wounds. Rodents, eggs, baby birds, lizards, frogs, and insects. Oh, I see. I believe I know why it's pronounced Gila monster, because if it's from like Mexico here, it's probably Spanish. That's probably why it's pronounced with an H. This venomous lizard is basically peaceful and is even kept by some people as a pet. It's much longer than I thought it was. It's 1/2 meter long. Now that's quite long. Well, free advice.
Gila monster bites have occurred when the Gila monster was being abused. These lizards are not known for their sense of humor. No, so don't tease a Gila.
Well, I think this is a good advice for basically any animal, because why would you tease an animal? You know, I mean, so if you tease a human, they might snap at you as well. So that's not too surprising to me that if you mistreated an animal, that it would snap back at you. You know, it's not just kind of a logical thing to try to avoid. Anyway, rough neighborhood.
Rattlesnakes, female jewel wasps, and scorpions make the desert a tough place to live.
Wow, I love rattlesnakes. Vipers are really fun, and I believe rattlesnakes are a type of viper. And vipers are really cool, and rattlesnakes are really pretty as well, and their rattle is really cool. So, strike or spare. Rattlesnakes have up to 6 replacement fangs behind their working fangs in each side of their jaw, so they never have to go hungry if they break a tooth. Well, that's cool. I did not know that. That they actually have, like, apologies, that they actually have, like, replacement teeth that they can activate if needed. Rough neighborhood. Gila monsters may not be your idea of cute and cuddly. Well, they are my idea of cute. I really think they are cute. So, speak for yourself. But they fit right in with their venomous neighbors, a few of which you can see here. The desert's no place for a wimp. Anyone want to arm wrestle? Scorpions are well-equipped killing machines. They use their clawed front legs, called pedipalps. Pedipalps? All right. They use their clawed front legs, called pedipalps, for grasping food. Then their strong, jointed jaws tear it into pieces and crush it to a pulp. If the prey struggles, the scorpion might paralyze it with its sting. Right, what does it have to say about prey? An animal that is hunted by another animal for food. I know all about that. Hole in one. A female jewel wasp stings and paralyzes a cockroach, drops it into a pit she's dug, and lays an egg on it. When the larva hatches, it eats the roach. Well, that is horrific. Okay, I did not know that. That is quite the wasp. I'm quite happy that the wasps we have here are typically rather friendly, comparatively. Right, sand swimmer.
The sandfish has
Oh
all
my
the
God.
equipment necessary for living in the desert.
This thing is adorable. How have I never heard of this? Sandfish. I love this. I love this picture especially. He looks so happy. All right, sandfish. Only its underside moves in and out when the sandfish breathes. If its sides moved, sand would fill the gaps when the lizard exhaled and leave too little room for the lizard to inhale. Sand swimmer. This lizard gets its name from its ability to swim through loose sand. Like the Gila monster, it stores fat in its tail for nourishment during hibernation and when food is scarce. Body is streamlined with very smooth scales to slip quickly through sand. Strong jaws to crunch through insects. Color blends with sand. Long snout to dig in sand. Again, another creature that I would absolutely be. It looks fantastic. It looks really cool. Swimming through sand? I want to swim through sand. And the color theme, again, perfect. I love this color theme. It fits me very well. Has exactly the type of colors that I like. Right, streamlined. Smooth, sleek, or slim. A streamlined object or animal can usually move faster than one that is not streamlined. Hibernation.
Hibernate. Hibernation.
To pass a period of time, for example the winter season, in a dormant or inactive state. When an animal sleeps through the winter, it is said to be hibernating. The period of time that an animal spends hibernating is known as hibernation. Alright. I love the sandfish. This is going to be another obsession of mine later when I'm going to go look through its Wikipedia page as much as I can, because it looks really cool. So this is what I really like about these programs, is because they this is quite different from actually looking at a Wikipedia page, of course, because this presents you with very, well, summarized facts about animals and things. So it's in my opinion a really cool way to explore a lot of things, and then if you find something that you think is really interesting, then you can open up an encyclopedia or read a book on that particular topic. And I really wish there were more things like this nowadays, because this is really fun, and I think something like this nowadays would be fantastic. Yellow and black stay back.
The colors yellow and black often signal that an animal carries venom.
Well, that's good to know. Spotter's salamander. There are venom glands in this amphibian's skin. If predators leave the salamander alone, it might live for more than 20 years. Wow, that's actually really old. Mangrove snake. The venom of this wasp-coloured reptile isn't strong enough to kill humans, but it's deadly to the birds that the snake hunts. Yellow and black, stay back. You're not likely to run into any Gila monsters because they spend most of their time in burrows underground, but if you did, a glance at those bright colours should be enough to warn you, hands off. I like the colours theme, so because now, we can take this now and then extrapolate about myself, because I do like this colour theme. I am venomous, which is very good to know. A venomous velociraptor. Just you be careful. Only one
Besides
other.
the Gila monster, the only other venomous lizard is the beaded lizard.
You shouldn't sit up nights worrying about meeting venomous lizards. There are only two. The Gila monster and the beaded lizard, which you'll find in wooded areas of western Mexico. Like Gila monsters, beaded lizards are slow and prefer hiding to fighting. It's good to know that there's only two venomous lizards on the entire planet, apparently? Or is this only in, like, North America? Would be interesting, because if there's only two on the entire planet, that would be kind of wild to me. And they're both in North America, in, like, Mexico, and what it looked like, at least to me. Yeah, see? So that would be very interesting, if there's only two on the entire planet, and they're both in North America. Groovy teeth. Wow, groovy.
Gila monsters chew venom into their victims and render them helpless.
Remember earlier when it said it's not cute? Look at this photo. How is this not adorable? I don't know. Scientists aren't sure, but they think that a Gila monster's venom is for defense rather than hunting. Gila monsters are so slow that they eat only foods that can't run away, like eggs or baby animals. Mouthwash. Gila monsters don't inject venom, they chew it into their victims with their notched teeth. The poisoned saliva is produced by glands in the lower jaw. It flows along a fold inside the mouth until it reaches the teeth, which have channels to collect and direct it. Drop for drop, this venom, which attacks the nervous system, is more powerful than a rattlesnake's. Wow, interesting. And it doesn't actually hunt properly, it appears. It mostly just eats eggs and things. So that's interesting that despite that, it doesn't appear to be using its venom most of the time. What's for dinner? Oh my god! That was adorable.
Gila monsters aren't exactly quick,
Lick, lick, lick.
so they don't attack fast-moving prey.
Oh, they're so cute.
An egg moves at about
Steal the egg!
speed for this lizard.
Egg! Wow, swallow it whole. It's like a snake. Nom nom. A Gila monster is not a speedy predator. It's happiest when it comes across food that can't run away. Well, dear Gila monster, I believe we have this in common. I also like my food when it isn't running away from me. Like a bunch of eggs from a reptile or ground nesting bird. Occasionally, it might capture a really slow mouse or lizard. Alright. Let's continue.
Here's another creature that's
rattlesnake.
often been a victim of human jokes.
I love the
Rattlesnakes
rattlesnake.
have been shipped across the country in surprise packages, stuffed into mailboxes, and tossed from person to person at
Oh my
parties.
god, who does
Of course
this?
they bite. You'd bite too if somebody was manhandling you like that.
Exactly! Thank you, that's what I was saying earlier. Man, of course you'd bite if somebody was manhandling you. Of course. So it's not like that should be surprising. Ah, rattlesnake. I love you. I love the rattlesnake. A rattlesnake can identify and kill its prey in total darkness. If there's a mouse nearby, the rattler's infrared sensors can detect the rodent's body's heat. When the snake strikes, its head and fangs are precisely guided by additional heat sensors inside its open mouth. A mouse in a rattler's path can become a midnight snack without ever seeing its attacker. Splendid. Right, and again, we can look at what infrared means if you shouldn't know. Light waves that are invisible to the human eye. Animals that can see very well at night have what we call infrared vision. I actually did not know about its having these like heat sensors in the rattler. I know about the heat sensors in the mouth, but I didn't actually know that the rattler itself also had the heat sensors. That's very interesting to actually learn about. Right, copperhead cousin.
It's hard to tell which
Wow.
snakes are venomous, especially when they look so much alike.
Again, the color scheme here of this one is really pretty. Unlike a rattlesnake, a copperhead gives no audible warning before it strikes. Its venomous bite is painful, but it's rarely fatal to humans. Copperheads vary in color from brown to orange-red, and their skin patterns help them blend into dead leaves in their forest habitat. Copperheads and rattlesnakes are both North American pit vipers. Yeah, so as I expected, as I said earlier, they are both they are vipers. There's a lot of words here that they assume we might not know, so let's see what it tells us about them. Audible.
Audible.
Capable of being heard. Not all noises are audible to all animals. For example, very high-pitched whistles are audible to dogs, but we cannot hear them. Noises that we can barely hear or can't hear at all are inaudible to us. Venomous.
Venomous.
Containing venom, a poison made by animals. Venomous animals have special glands for making venom, poison. They use this venom to attack prey or to defend themselves against other animals. Fatal.
Fatal.
Causing
Fatal.
death. Causing death. Fatal illnesses, for example, are illnesses that kill people or animals. If the bite of an animal or an insect kills a person, we say that the person was fatally bitten. Habitat.
Habitat.
The area or kind of place where an animal naturally lives. There are many kinds of habitats. Deserts, savannas, forests, tropical oceans, to name a few. Some animals live in small, specialized habitats within larger ecosystems. For example, the natural habitat of the koala, a marsupial, is high up in the trees of eucalyptus forests in Australia and nowhere else. Oop. Pit vipers.
Pit viper.
A type of venomous snake that has a small, deep pit between each eye and nostril. The pits are sensitive to the heat given off by other animals, allowing the snakes to find their prey even in the dark. Pit vipers include rattlesnake, copperhead, and water moccasin. They are found mostly in the Western Hemisphere. Not a copperhead. Because it has similar colouring and lives in many of the same places, this corn snake is sometimes mistaken for a copperhead. But a corn snake is not venomous, and is considered a friend to farmers because it eats rodents.
Rodent.
A small furred animal that has very long and strong front teeth for gnawing or chewing through things. Rats, mice, squirrels, beavers, hamsters, gerbils, and guinea pigs are rodents. Now here's a word that I would like for you to tell me what it means. What is a gerbil? I have never heard of that before. Rattlesnake eaters. Right, snake ball.
Just imagine.
Oh my god!
1,000 rattlesnakes, all curled up for a long winter's hibernation.
That's adorable! Ah, that looks so cozy! Rattlesnakes gather in underground burrows or caves to sleep through the winter. During this hibernation period, their body processes slow down so much that they don't need to eat anything. Sometimes as many as 1,000 rattlesnakes will coil up together to hibernate. That is absolutely adorable. Yes, it is a rattlesnake carpet. But it's really cute. It's really cute. That looks really cute. I want to be one of the rattlesnakes in this rattlesnake cuddle pile and hibernate for a few months. That would fix me. I'm certain. Oh my god, there's a sea snake. Oh, there's so many cool things in this program. I wanted to do like a really short video, but now I'm too excited about everything in here. Rattlesnake eaters. Oh, right, let's actually look at the facts. We haven't looked at the facts. Rattlesnake. Kills by injecting venom through fangs. Eats rodents, lizards, and birds, and occasionally their eggs. It may be dead, but it's still dangerous. A rattlesnake's fangs and head muscles are capable of injecting venom even after the snake is dead. Well, that's good to know. You have to be careful where you step when you're walking around barefoot somewhere. It's a western diamondback rattlesnake, I'm assuming. Well,
when a rattlesnake rattles, that means you're
rattle.
too close. Back off. Yes. Oh, heed the snake's warning, and you'll part company without getting bitten. Personally, I wish all snakes were as thoughtful as rattlers.
I love snakes. They're so cute. I want to go to the snake one soon. Rattlesnake
To each
eaters.
his own. King snakes from Mexico and California find the rattlesnake a tasty meal.
Rattlesnake eaters. You'd think that no one would want to mess with a rattlesnake, but king snakes think a rattler makes a fine meal. California king snake. This snake, like all king snakes, is not venomous. It kills its prey, including rattlesnakes and copperheads, by constriction. And the Mexican mountain king snake. This snake isn't dangerous to people, but it can be mistaken for the coral snake, which is. Again, the color theme of this one is pretty. I love the red and the patterns. The patterns are really cool. Right, let's see what else we have. One lungs and... Oh, right, actually, wrestling rattlers. We have another little video here that we can take a quick look at. Oh my god, big fangs. Hey there, snake.
Rattlesnakes save their venom for their prey.
Rattle, 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 rattle.
When two rattlers get into
You can
a
barely
fight,
tell
they
what's
don't
happening.
fight, they wrestle. The
Wow,
snake
fight.
that force the other's head to the ground is the winner.
Yeah, the video quality can be somewhat problematic at times. I can't really tell what's happening. Well, that's all right. This is a very funny picture also, with this rattlesnake holding a picture of another rattlesnake in its jaw. It's very fun. Male rattlesnakes are territorial. They don't like to find other male rattlers in their hunting area, so when two males meet, the rattlesnakes neck wrestle to decide who gets to stay. Alright. And then fang facts. I do want some fang facts.
With a mouth that can stretch wide and specialized fangs for pumping venom, the rattlesnake is well equipped.
That's a really big jaw. Fang facts, which is also fun because it sounds like fun facts. The rattler's jaws fit together loosely, attached by a ligament that's like a rubber band, so the snake's mouth can open really wide. That's useful both for striking and for swallowing animals whole. Rattlers don't chew their food. Say, the rattlesnake's fangs are usually folded back against the roof of its mouth. When its jaws open to strike, special muscles bring the fangs into position and venom is pumped into its prey by glands in the snake's heads. Heads, well, okay, it doesn't have several heads, that was terrifying. That's unhinged, you say? Well, it definitely is, yes. Early warning systems. Is this about the rattling? Yes. When the
Buzzing
rattlesnake...
noise is meant as a warning.
It's
So
too
if
fast.
you hear it out on the trail, look out for a rattlesnake.
When the rattlesnake shakes its tail, the separate pieces knock together, creating the rattling sound. The rattle is made of the same material as your finger and toenails. A new button is added each time the snake. A new button is added each time the snake sheds its skin. Well, that's interesting. I didn't know that it was made out of the same material. Oh, is it called keratin? No, it's not keratin, is it? But I didn't know that it was made out of the same material. I did not know that it actually got a new button in quotation marks each time it sheds its skin, which means that if you have a really old rattlesnake, it doesn't just have like a really gigantic rattler at the end of its tail. I'm assuming probably after a while they would perhaps like break up or like get damaged so that they don't actually grow infinitely long. That would be interesting to know if there's like a rattlesnake with a really, really, really long rattler. Early warning system. It's believed that rattlesnakes make noise to warn larger animals that they're there. If you're out hiking and you hear a buzzing noise, look before you step. A rattler's giving you a fair warning. It is quite... Oh, keratin's correct. That's nice. I'm glad that I actually got the word correct. And this is very nice. You know, it's very nice of the snake to be like, hey, I'm here. I will bite you if you don't bugger off. It's honestly kind of nice. And shedding skins.
Ever find a whole snake skin?
I have
a
not.
snake grows out of its skin and leaves it behind. A lizard leaves behind pieces.
Right. As a snake grows, its scaly skin becomes too small for its body. So it regularly sheds the old skin, which it leaves behind whole and intact. A new larger skin is ready underneath to replace the old one. Slow worm shedding. This reptile is a legless lizard. Were you fooled? And like snakes, lizards shed their skin in pieces. The English name for the slow worm is quite funny. I have actually seen one of them here in Germany when I was out birding. And we did think that it was a snake then also. But it really is just a legless lizard. Which is really fun, because it really just looks like a snake. And grass snake skin. This skin has even the markings of its former owner. It looks kind of terrifying, you know, basically essentially being skinned and then finding the skin of a snake. There's not many snakes here. We do have snakes here. I have just never come across one. But I do wish to see like a snake, even though I think I would be a bit scared if I wasn't certain what kind of snake it was. Well, let us continue on our journey.
Never underestimate how fast or how far a wild animal can move. If you're out golfing and you see a gator floating in the water hazard, don't stop at the edge to get a closer view. That gator's teeth could be clamped onto your leg before you can shout, "Hey, Caddy, how about bringing that cart over here?"
Well, I don't typically go golfing, so I don't think I'm going to have this problem. The older the gator, the bigger its prey. Baby alligators eat mostly insects and crustaceans. As they grow, their diet changes to frogs, snakes, and fish. And big, old gators not only snap up all the fish they can, but they will also try to grab birds, muskrats, and even a deer from time to time. Oh my goodness, I didn't think they would actually eat deer. That's terrifying. All right. Crustacean. Any group of animals that live in water and have a hard outer covering, at least 10 legs, and 4 feelers or antennae. Lobsters, crabs, crayfish, and shrimp are all crustaceans. Relatively alike.
Reptiles all, these creatures
Oh my
have
god, the
backbones,
iguana!
scaly skin, and blood that isn't always warm.
I love the iguana, it's so pretty. I like all of them. The California mountain king snakes, also really, really pretty. Look at those absolutely pretty markings here. And if it was a king snake, I believe earlier we learned that king snakes aren't venomous, so this one is a friendly boy. Red-eared terrapin, a male tatara, I guess, and a common iguana. What do all these animals have in common? They're all reptiles. Alligators, crocodiles, snakes, lizards, turtles, and the tutara all have backbones, scaly skin, and blood that is the same temperature as their environment, and most of them lay eggs. Reptiles are one of the most successful type of animals on Earth. They've been around since before the dinosaurs. Wow, they're older than me! Let's look at some facts. Kills by seizing prey in jaws and then drowning it. Oh, I didn't actually know it drowned them. I just thought they ripped them apart. And that was what killed them. But the drowning does make sense. Probably a bit easier to drown the animal first and then it doesn't wiggle around in your jaw. Probably a bit easier. It eats anything it can catch, which is kind of terrifying. Baby alligators make chirping noises when they begin to hatch. This usually calls the mother, who takes the babies in her mouth and carries them to safety. Ah, that's adorable, though. Oh, I didn't know they were actually in China. Okay, I just knew them from the United States. I did not know that they were actually also in China. Let's listen to some free advice.
Some people think that alligators, not to mention ninja turtles, live in sewers. But if you listen to them, you're much more likely to run into an alligator in a swamp
Wow,
or in
the
the water
sewers.
hazard on a Florida golf course. Just don't get too close to a gator and you'll both be okay.
He looks happy. He looks really happy here. Other
Other
cases.
creatures have alligator names, but the Chinese alligator is a true relative of our American alligator.
Okay. All these creatures go by the name of alligator, too. Only one of them is really a relative of our American alligator. Chinese alligator. Because of the destruction of their marshland habitat, only a few hundred of these timid animals are left in China's lower Yangtze River. Only half the size of its American cousin, the Chinese alligator sleeps through the cold winter. Flying alligator. This lantern bug gets its nickname from the odd shape of its body. Do you think it looks like a gator? Kind of, maybe if you squint your eyes, or if you take off your glasses, if you have glasses like me, perhaps. If you take off your monocle. Alligator snapper. When is an alligator not an alligator? When is an alligator snapping turtle? It has some things in common with gators, including its powerful jaws and its habit of lying in wait for unwary fish. You don't want to go swimming with this turtle. It's got teeth. Oh my god, a turtle with teeth. I mean, I don't know if they usually have teeth. I've never actually looked at turtles quite that close. Tender loving care.
Baby crocodilians
Oh
receive
my God.
tender care from their moms.
Oh, it's so
Other
cute.
adults keep an eye on them too.
Oh, look at all the lizards. Look at all the baby tiny alligators. Oh my god, that's adorable. Oh, they're so cute. They're so tiny. Alligators and caimans, like all crocodilians, are good parents. The female makes a nest for her eggs and stays near to guard them. When the young are ready to hatch, they grunt and their mother gently cracks the eggs to help them break free. Then she carries them to water. If the babies yelp for help, any adult alligator will rush to the rescue. So don't touch that hatchling, a grown-up's nearby. I mean, I think that's a good tip, just like in general, that you shouldn't just touch random eggs. Right. Inside story. The embryo inside the shell is cushioned by the amniotic. I do not know how to pronounce this.
Amniotic fluid.
Amniotic. Thank you, dear game. Amniotic fluid and nourished by the yolk sac. Now, family values. All right, so what else? Croc or gator? Yeah, what is the difference between a crocodile and an alligator? I don't actually
Croc
know.
or gator. It's hard to tell the difference. In either case, keep your distance.
You're taking a walk in Florida, and you suddenly come across a large lizard-like creature. Quick! Is it a crocodile or an alligator? If the beast has a pointy snout and you can see a big, sharp tooth, the fourth one back from the nose, pointing up from its bottom jaw, it's a croc. If that tooth is hidden, you're facing an alligator. In either case, don't try to make friends. Why? I want to be friends with a crocodile or an alligator. They look cool. I want to be friends with one of them. Don't tell me what to do. Crocodiles smile. Because you can see the telltale bottom tooth sticking up, you know that this is a crocodile. Alligator grin. An alligator's snout is rounder They're the crocodiles. Right, that's good to know. They still do look rather similar. So in this picture, it looks like it's glowing, which is very fantastic.
Don't fall for this reptile smile.
Why not? He looks friendly. I want to pet him. It's activating its special attack. Yes, it is. Inside an alligator's mouth, there are always new teeth growing under all the existing teeth. When one tooth gets knocked out, a new tooth underneath is ready for action. That's why you can see teeth of different sizes in this gator's mouth. And that's interesting. I did not know that. That is actually like regrows its teeth. I feel like that would be very handy to have for some humans as well.
Tales of Chinese
Oh my God.
dragons. Were they inspired by dinosaur bones or by the lizards that are still around today?
That's actually a good question. I think I remember seeing something about this where it was thought, I don't remember, if there was a book, I think, but where it was thought that some European myths, like the griffin, I believe, were inspired by fossils that Europeans, Europeans, for example, found. And they looked at them and they couldn't really put together, obviously, back then what that was. And so they just kind of came out that, because usually when you find fossils, you don't typically find an entire full skeleton. You find bits and pieces here and there. You might find a head, you might find one bone, something like that. And so they just kind of found random pieces and then they tried to piece together, okay, what could this have been? And then it was like the skeleton, it wasn't actually like one proper skeleton, it just kind of put together out of different animals. And that's, at least from what I read, perhaps one of the possibilities of how things like the dragon or a griffin came to be in myths. The Chinese have told stories of dragons for centuries. Did tales of gigantic lizard-like creatures originate with the discovery of enormous dinosaur bones, or were they inspired by creatures we still see today? Yeah, I feel like it is quite possible that it's both. It could be both, depending on perhaps they had the alligators, and then they found these bones, and they were like, okay, perhaps at some point there lived this giant creature here. Who knows? Earthly dragon. Oh my god. Someone's stomping over my screen. What's happening? I don't know what's happening. Is this a screensaver? This is adorable. I think it's a screensaver, yeah. That was really cool. I was yapping too long. All right. Earthly dragon. This crested water dragon, an Asian lizard, can run upright on its two back legs. Dragon mosaic. The Chinese believed that dragons lived in the heavens above the earth. Cayman cousins.
Alligators live in North America and China, and their cousins, the caimans, in Central and South America.
Alligators live in North America and in China, but they have close relatives called caimans in Central and South America. Some of these alligator relatives have become suburban residents, moving into water near large cities. They're not likely to attack humans, but they are fierce hunters of birds, fish, and small mammals. Cayman country. Caimans cruise waterways from Mexico to Uruguay. You may also see a few in Florida. These are usually former pets that have been turned loose. Adult caiman. Although you may see tiny babies in pet stores, black caimans can grow up to 6 meters long, 19.5 feet. And swamp struggle. Hi there. Wow.
An anaconda
Get the
meets
snake.
a caiman. Each might think the other looks like food.
Damn, I didn't know the
Jaws
anaconda was
against
that big.
muscle. But only one will be the winner. The other will be dinner.
Wow, I wanted to know who wins. I actually want to go. I know I have a tour here, but I kind of do want to have snakes. Something. Is there like a way to get to the snakes? I really want the snakes. That's okay.
Now, people
Bats!
sometimes have nightmares about vampire bats swooping out of the darkness and biting them in the neck.
Wow,
That's
bite
not
me.
real. You'd have to go to Central America, peel a vampire bat off of a cave roof somewhere, gently, they're teeny little things, and press it onto your neck. If you do all that, you deserve to get bitten.
Yeah, that's true. After dark, this little beast emerges to look for blood. With the precision of an experienced surgeon, a vampire bat slices a small wound in an animal and then laps up its blood. Most victims never even know the bat was there because they sleep right through the attack. This creepy behavior has made the vampire bat the subject of many tales of terror. Is its reputation justified? I have never actually heard of that. Echolocation.
No need for a roadmap. A
Oh, they're
bat
so cute.
reads echoes to learn what's nearby.
They're so fluffy. Look how fluffy he is. Oh my god. Bats make very high-pitched squeals that humans can't hear. These sounds bounce off nearby objects and return to the bat's sensitive ears and nose as echoes. By reading these echoes, bats can zoom in on their prey, even in total darkness. We have Dorbenton's bat here, echolocating what appears to be some sort of moth. And then we have a horseshoe bat here with its big eyes. Look at those big ears, not eyes. Well, I guess the ears are eyes if it's seized with them, so... And here we have a long-eared bat that has even longer ears. Echolocation. Insect-eating bats are nocturnal, which means they do their hunting at night. How can they find their prey in the dark? The answer is echolocation, which means just what it sounds like, locating something by listening to echoes. Wow, killer whale. The killer whale is also really cool. I like all the creatures in this. I like all the creatures in general. So this is the perfect game for me. And they have really lots of fun photos, which is nice. The quality is, of course, not the best, being from, like, I believe 1991. I'm going to look this up real quick. Dangerous creatures. I believe it's 1991 that this was released. 1994, a little bit longer. It was released for Microsoft 3.1, which is what we're running here. Getting Windows 3.1 working was a nightmare. It was not as easy as I had hoped it would be. But I got it working after, like, 2 hours. If I had known what I was doing, it probably would have been faster. But I didn't, so it took me really long. Fruit juicer.
Blind as a bat?
Oh, he's so
Not
happy!
this bat.
Oh my god, I want to pet him! Oh my god, boop, boop, boop. Look at him, he's so cute! He has little fangs! I didn't know they had little fangs, look at that. So cute. Fruit juicer. Fruit bats depend on keen eyesight and a highly developed sense of smell to find their food. Their big furry heads and dog-like faces give fruit bats the nickname of flying foxes. Oh, those are the flying foxes! I knew of the name flying fox. I didn't know that they were fruit bats, so that's good to know. This Frankwitz bat lives in African forests and eats soft fruits like guavas, bananas, and figs. Are figs really soft? The last few times I've had a fig in my paws, I think it was not as soft as a banana. What's for dinner? Well, what is for dinner?
When night falls,
They
bats
squeak.
come out of their hiding places
Well,
to
they're so
hunt for
cute.
dinner.
So many.
Vampire bats look for large, warm-blooded animals.
I'll bite him.
Just a tiny bite from this.
That doesn't
tiny
look like a
bat.
tiny bite to me. That looks like a big bite to me. That looked like a big bite to me. That wasn't a tiny bite. What's for dinner? The vampire bats are unique in the bat world because all these tiny creatures crave is blood, blood, blood. Well, that sounds terrifying. Most bats crave fruit or insects instead. The two types shown here eat insects and spiders. Alright, I did not actually know that there were bats that are essentially gigantic mosquitoes that just feed on blood. That is terrifying. I did not know that. That makes sense now, with the whole like Dracula and vampire theme. I never quite knew why, the blood sucking was a thing. But if there are actually bats that do suck blood, that makes a whole lot more sense. I didn't know. I didn't know there actually were.
Bats use their wings not only to fly, but to catch their dinner.
They are so cute though. They're so fuzzy and so. I want to see I really would like to know what a bat feels like, because they look so soft and fuzzy. Not the wings, of course, but their body itself does. Hunting on the wing. By positioning its wings forward, this Dorberton's bat can form a net to trap a juicy moth in the air. It usually hunts by flying over a river or lake, and it may use its feet to pluck a fat plug from the water's surface, just like a fishing bird. Amazing acrobats. Bats that are chasing after insects can change direction faster than our eyes can follow. They use their wings not only to fly, but also to scoop insects out of the air. Some bats also have leathery tails, which they use both as a rudder and a brake during flight. You'd need a couple of vaccines and several qualifications to touch one. A bat. Well, that's okay. Maybe I'll get turned into a bat if it bites me. Or maybe I'll just get COVID 2.0. That could also happen. I would prefer being turned into a bat, though. Bouquet of
They
bats.
sleep in cool caves
Oh
and
my
empty
God,
buildings.
Look at the
To
cuddles.
stay warm,
Aw.
they huddle close.
So cute. Look at the cuddling. See? Look. Oh, don't you want to be one of the cute little fluffy, cuddly bats? Yeah, it is adorable. Bats usually sleep in unheated places like caves or empty buildings, so they frequently huddle together for warmth. Some bats hibernate through the winter, breathing so slowly that you might think they were dead. But when the weather gets warm, they wake up and separate from the others to cool off. Pip, squeak, pipistrelles. I don't know how to pronounce what. Pipistrelles? Okay, yeah, it is. Pipistrelle is a very adorable name. The bodies of these tiny pipistrelle bats are only 4 centimeters, 1.6 inches long. This size isn't unusual in the bat world. In fact, you could hold many types of bats in your hand. We have a lake here, a bunch of lakes. They're not real lakes, they're like artificial lakes, but there's water there. And there's also a bridge where, I believe anyway, a lot of bats live, because in the summer, especially at night, you do see them flying around, and you can always tell that they're bats and not birds just by the way they fly much more frantically than birds do. Their flight isn't quite as rhythmic, I would say, as a bird's is, and they change direction so much. They really do. But they're so cute. And we had one almost fly into us before. Because it flew so close to the ground. It was really cool. I really like the bats. They're really fun. I don't see them too often, but when I do, I'm always really happy. Bat
The
anatomy.
wing of the bat is a marvelous creation.
Wow. There's another prehistoric predators at the top right that I kind of want to see. Long arms. You can see that a bat's wings are similar to our arms. Their hands have only one short, clawed finger that sticks out of the skin. Bats use this finger to hook into things and crawl around on the ground. Their other finger bones support the wing. He has a fancy neck covering. He does have a fancy neck covering. Look at this little fancy fluffy collar that he has. And the eyes, look how red his eyes are. Just looks like a wyvern. 4th, 3rd, 2nd, 1st, and a 5th finger. And the upper arm, you can actually see the arms and the fingers really well through this kind of translucent wing skin. It's really cool. Who would have imagined that an animal would need such sharp teeth to eat fruit? That is what I was saying earlier. I was surprised that it would have these like fangs. I absolutely thought that, considering that it doesn't really seem to eat. I mean, of course, the blood-sucking bat perhaps would need some sharp teeth, but, the fruit bat. In a bat's wings, a cape of leather, it's actually leather, stretches between the bat's body and the arm bones to form a lightweight flying wing. We humans have borrowed this design for our own hang gliders. Really? Okay, I want once again another thing that I did not know, that we actually borrowed this design for hang gliders, which is really cool. Hanging out. Yeah.
The bat's clawed feet are good for crawling and for
Well, look at
hanging
him go.
upside down while sleeping.
It's actually holding onto this branch with like a wing. I didn't know that they had like a claw on their wing that they could hold onto branches with. With wings folded, the bats can crawl. With wings folded, bats can crawl right side up on the ground or upside down along a branch. They use the one clawed finger on each wing together with their back feet, which have many clawed toes for a secure grip. Interesting also, I believe it's called the Hoatzin. A Hoatzin bird, I believe it was called. Actually still has, in, I believe, only the young birds, on their wings, they actually have claws. Right? So if you look at me, down in the corner, if you look at me, I obviously have like claws on my wing arms as well. You know, the Velociraptor and other dromaeosaurs had these claws on their wings. And then birds nowadays, obviously, do not have claws on their wings at all. However, some birds, like the Hoatzin, in the young birds, I believe only, they actually still do have some claws on their wings, which they lose when they become an adult, but they actually do have these claws at the end of their wings, which is really cool to see. So it's kind of like, I mean, birds are dinosaurs, but it's still interesting to see, you know, how they actually retain this old feature that most other birds have lost. It's just very cool to see. It is a good question what the reason for that is. Let's see. So the Wikipedia at least says the Hoatzin is notable for its chicks having primitive claws on 2 of their wing digits. It is unique among birds in possessing a digestive system. Okay, that's interesting. But why? Hoatzin chicks have 2 claws on each wing immediately after hatching. They can use these claws and their oversized feet to scramble around tree branches without falling into the water. Okay. Okay, so when predators, such as the great black hawk, attack a Hoatzin nesting colony, the adults fly noisily about, trying to divert the predator's attention, while the chick moves away from the nest and hide amongst the thickets. If discovered, however, they drop into the water and swim under the surface to escape, then later use their clawed wings to climb back up to the safety of the nest. And yeah, there's some interesting comparisons here on the Wikipedia as well that I was saying about earlier. This has led to comparisons to the fossil bird Archaeopteryx, but the characteristic is rather an autopomorphy, possibly caused by an atavism towards the dinosaurian finger claws, whose developmental genetics blueprint is presumably still present in the avian genome. So that's interesting. And it's not unique to Hoatzins either. I believe, like, actually just regular chickens, I think. Just normal chickens actually still have them also. But it's cool to see this kind of thing that is just still around in some birds. Python! Oh, more snakes!
Pythons or boas often appear in pet stores. Now, these snakes are not venomous, so some people think they don't bite. Wrong. How do you think they grab onto a mouse or bird to eat it? Move too quickly in front of them, and you may find out just how long and sharp their teeth are. Also,
I'll show you how sharp my teeth are.
Feel nice to the touch, but sometimes these snakes want to get too cuddly. If you give one a hug, it may hug you back, and it may not let go.
Wow, I want a snake hug. A python is probably the longest snake in the world. The biggest one found, a reticulated python, was as long as a 3-story building is tall. Excuse me? That has to be a mistake. What do you mean it was as long as a 3-story building is tall? How does that work? Oh my. Okay, is this true? Because that feels very strange that it was as long as a 3-story building is tall. Python sizes and habitats vary from Asian snakes ornery enough to eat deer to African snakes that tuck themselves into a ball to Australian snakes kept in barns to wipe out rats. This African rock python is one of the world's largest snakes. I still can't get over the 3-story thing, to be quite honest. That feels nuts. I'll have to look that up later. Coat of many
Colorful,
colours.
yes.
Wow.
But in the branches of a tree, prey
She's so
may
pretty.
fail to see the green tree python. Gotcha.
That's so pretty. I love the green. Adult green tree pythons can measure up to 2 meters or 7 feet in length. Coat of many colours. You'd think that an animal as colourful as this green tree python would be hard to overlook, but it's almost invisible as it scouts among the branches for rodents, birds, and bats. The young snakes are even brighter, lemon yellow striped with purple and brown. These pretty pythons live in the rainforests of New Guinea and northeastern Australia. They are really pretty though. That's a really pretty colour scheme. What's a constrictor?
The big boa and the little Mexican milk snake. Call them both constrictors, snakes that take your breath away.
Well, quite literally, I would say. Just a little squeeze. You'd have to place 6 Mexican milk snakes end to end to equal the length of one large boa constrictor. But the small striped snake squeezes its prey in exactly the same way as its giant distant relative. What's a constrictor? Snakes that kill their prey by squeezing them in their coils are called constrictors. Great big hug. I want a great big hug. A constrictor grabs its prey with its teeth and throws a loop of its body around it. The snake doesn't squash its prey, it applies just enough pressure to keep the animal from breathing. Every time the prey exhales, the snake tightens its coils a little. Soon, the victim can't expand its ribs and lungs enough to breathe, and it suffocates. That's terrifying. So actually breathing is what makes it so that it can squeeze you more and more. Wow. Okay, I didn't know that. Inside story. Oh my god. Hi there.
Bone and ribs.
That is a lot of backbone and ribs. Quite, yeah, absolutely. So you have the neck vertebra, you have the skull, and then you have big ribs and the tail vertebra, which are kind of tiny. Python skeleton. A snake is mostly backbone. Humans have only 33 vertebrae, but a big snake like this can have 400. Wow. Time for the vertebra maxing here. Pythons and boas have unusual skeletons. These primitive snakes have the remains of hips and tiny hind limbs. Scientists believe that the bones, which you can't see in this picture, prove the ancestors of snakes really did have legs. Wow, okay. A snake on legs. That would be cool. So it's like the lizard. It's like the legless lizard, the slow worm, which also obviously is a lizard. Most lizards have legs, but that one doesn't. Now, what is the Australian sea wasp? Wow, there's so many interesting creatures in this one. Egg, etc.
Mother pythons care for their eggs.
Well, there she
but
goes.
after they hatch, the little ones are on their own.
Egg of burying python from West Africa. Why is the egg long? That's an interestingly shaped egg. This is so cute. Hello, look at the snaky come out. Hello. Lick. It's very cute. All mother pythons coil up around their eggs for at least part of the incubation period, and some species guard their eggs until they hatch. A few of the bigger species, like the Indian python, actually keep their eggs warm by curling up around them and shivering to create friction. Oh, creating fiction. After the eggs hatch, the babies are on their own. Ready or not, this little rattlesnake checks out its surroundings before it leaves the egg. It may stay in the egg for days before it slithers into the wild world. Here I come. When the baby finally leaves the shell, it makes its move quickly. An amazing amount of snake was tucked into that little egg. It must be, really coiled up in there. That's really... You can't just ask someone why their egg is long. Of course I can ask someone why their egg is long. Why is their egg long? I want to know. Alright, so we only have too full to move. Another movie. Hi there.
Dogs don't need to eat very often. A rat or possum can keep one fed for several days.
Num num num.
And a really big meal will keep a python satisfied for weeks.
Bash. She's really stretched out. Oh my god. Pythons usually prey on small to medium-sized animals because the bigger the animal, the longer it takes to digest. If a python swallows a big animal like an antelope, the snake will be almost helpless for days or even weeks afterward. An antelope? I didn't even know it could eat something that big. Okay, good to know. Wow, the jaws of death. Now that sounds
What
interesting.
manners? But chewing your food is not important at the boa's dinner table.
Jaws of death. A constrictor swallowing a whole rat is sort of like you trying to swallow a whole watermelon. The snake can do it because its jaws and skin are designed to stretch. A snake can swallow objects a lot wider than its own body. Open wide. A snake's lower jaw can swing way down. The two sides of the lower jaw can also be stretched sideways because the two halves are connected by a flexible ligament like a rubber band. One of the biggest.
Longest snake? Probably a reticulated python. The heaviest? Probably the anaconda.
One of the biggest snakes. If all the snakes had a contest, these cousins would have to share the size prize. Anaconda from South America. The python might be the longest snake, but the anaconda, or water boa, is probably the heaviest. A large one can grow to more than 8 meters. A large one can grow to more than 8 meters long and can weigh more than 3 adult men. Oh my goodness. That's a heavy boy. Reticulated python from Asia. This is the largest snake in the Eastern Hemisphere. It can grow to be over 9 meters long. That's insane. 9 meters is insane. Oh my god. I kind of want to see one just to see what 9 meters of pure snake looks like. Right, we're going to look at super senses and then we're going to call it off. Yeah. I just wanted to do like a really short stream, but it ended up almost 1.5 hours already because it's been really
Pythons
cool.
and boas see with heat-detecting pits in their head.
Yes.
And smell and taste with forked tongues.
It's on the tip of my tongue. All snakes and some lizards use their forked tongues to pick up chemical particles from their surroundings. The particles are transferred from the tongue tip to a structure called Jacobson's organ, which partly smells and partly tastes them. Super senses. If pythons and boas were missiles, they'd seldom miss their targets. Even on a pitch-dark night. The heat-sensitive pits in the snake's head detect a mammal's body heat. Because this information is processed by the part of the snake's brain that deals with vision, the snake can actually see the heat given off by the animal. Which is really, really cool to think about. That, like, I wonder what it's like being able to see heat. It would be really cool to feel what that is like. Right, we're going to have to call off here for now, because it's been much longer than I had hoped it would be.
Or keep
Thank you very much for watching. It's been very fun. I'm going to probably continue looking at this some other time, because there is a lot of more things here to see. And thank you very much for coming to this little, what was supposed to be a test stream, but that ended up being much longer than I had anticipated. Thank you very much for coming here, and I shall see you next time. Goodbye.